Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. It is Tuesday, all you minties, and I am the Uncanny Omar, and you are watching Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. So that means it's time to take an advanced look at all of these books coming out from Marvel Comics this week. We're looking at the week of April 29th or 30th of 2025. So join me. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the Fine Folks in Marvel for sending us advanced copies of all of these collected editions coming out on April 29th or 30th of 2025. We are looking at a new printing of a long out of print trade paperback. And speaking of long out of print, another new printing. We're looking at some collections here that have been collected for the first time. And then, of course, one new epic collection right there. Before I go any further, please don't forget to smash that like button. That goes a long way for us here on the channel. Small thing you can do, but it does mean the world to us. And as always, I have one choice, one pick of the week. And it's always difficult because there were a lot of good books this week. A lot of the reprints, a lot of the stuff I've read before, and a lot of the new stuff. And then, of course, the stuff I recommend. But I have to limit myself to just one book. Oh, man, it was hard. All right. Let's go ahead and start. As always, I put timestamps in the description of the video. We're going to start with that quite adorable book right there. It's Jeff first. It's Jeff. Look, I get one pick a week. I get it. I'm very limited. But if you have kids, if you have nieces, nephews, cousins that have kids, if you have neighbors that have kids, and you ever want to pass on your passion and love of comics to somebody, you want to donate it to a library, this is it. This book right here is so amazing. Like, I want everybody to own a copy of this, and everybody's neighbor and everybody's family to own a copy of this. I absolutely love this book. It's a digest-sized book, so that means it is smaller than your regular trade paperback editions, like this. Kind of give you an idea of the size of this book right here. I mean, obviously these are thicker too, but this right here, oh my gosh. So let's go ahead and open it up. I did want to point out the rating says for ages 10 and plus. Honestly, I kind of feel like it's an all ages type of book. They actually have ads for other books. This is by Mariko Tamaki. And this is the Double Trouble, and then Double Trouble's Spider-Man Double Trouble. And then this is Spider-Man and Venom. It's Jeff, the little character that was created by none other than Kelly Thompson, who we will be interviewing later today at 4 p.m. And we will be giving away copies of It's Jeff to viewers in America, in Canada, and in the EU. So if that's one of you, make sure you're tuning in live. We'd love to do it. But anyway, credit where credit is due. It is Kelly Thompson and Goody Hiru right here. Lettering by Joe Sabino and Clayton Cowles. And then other folks right here that helped out. Oh my gosh, this is so adorable. And the beauty of this book, and why I think it's all ages, is because there's really hardly any dialogue, and when there is, it's not until the back. So really quick, this collects It's Jeff, the one-shot from 2023. It's Jeff, Jeff First #1, Venom War, It's Jeff #1. The book has 128 pages and retails for $15.99. So it is the little character that hangs out with Hawkeye, hangs out with Gwenpool, and gets into mighty misadventures. Like, he just wants to be himself. He wants to go swimming, for example, right here. And all the superheroes are swimming, so what's going to be the problem? I love the absurdity and just ridiculousness of this little land shark going in the water and scaring all these big superheroes out because they see the fin of a shark. Like, these are people that went up against Thanos. It's adorable. It doesn't take itself too seriously. He gets accidentally put in with the laundromat here. Or with the dirty laundry, sorry. And Hawkeye freaks out. She's like, oh my gosh, I accidentally killed Jeff. No, he's fine. That's right. He's just actually now taking a nap. It's adorable, little, like, seriously little stories like that where he goes on just mighty misadventures. There's hardly any dialogue at all. It just lets the artwork carry the story, which I think is phenomenal because to me, this is one of those books that I would get my kids at a young age. This is something that we would start looking at together. I did the same thing when they were about 2 years old, and it was very important to me to do this, like show them the sequential art and how easy it is to follow it. And then, of course, throw them for a loop with manga when they're like going in reverse. But anyway, that didn't come for a couple of years later. But yes, this is just Jeff having fun in the Marvel Universe. He does get to see some of the other pets from the Marvel Universe. And then, of course, by the time you get to the Venom War, it's Jeff. Actually, there's a little bit of the Extreme Venomverse number 5, the little Jeff story. It's the one that's drawn by Lionel Francis Yu, I think, the cover. Yes, this actually has some dialogue. So by the time you get to Venom War, it's Jeff. There is some dialogue, but it's easy to read. Again, I think this is for all ages, and it'd be fun to read to your kids. And Jeff just wants to dress up and go in costume outside. However, he gets taken over by the symbiote the zombie that's going around in the Venom War storyline. It's adorable, it's cute, and very, very little dialogue. In the back, you do have some of the variant covers. 128 pages, $15.99. Just in time for the movie that comes out in a couple months, we're getting some collections that are cheap enough to get somebody in case they were interested in any of the characters and what they're like in their comic book counterparts. Ryan North's collection is perfect, by the way, if you want to get people into Fantastic Four. But this is Fantastic Four versus Galactus. This is a collection that we've had many years before in Epic collections, in trade paperbacks, Masterworks, Omni editions, and now it's coming out in kind of an all-in-one. And this is an introduction by none other than Ryan North, who is the current writer of the Fantastic Four. And talking about the character of Galactus, how whenever you look at first appearances of some characters back in the 60s, or even he uses Wolverine as a prime example. The first appearance of Wolverine from Hulk 180 and 181 is a completely different character than what we've seen over the years. Hell, even like 5 years later, he was a completely different character. However, the character of Galactus stays true to his original creation by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. He is still that hungry character, even though we've seen why he's a world leader, and I'll explain a little bit later, especially since we're talking about Earth X in this batch of books. So collected in here is Fantastic Four, 48 through 50, and 242 to 244. So we do have the coming of Galactus. This is the first appearance of the Silver Surfer, his herald, and how he is invading Earth, and how the Fantastic Four have to put a stop to it. I love the fact that when Reed can't figure things out, he lets his beard grow. Experimental photo art right here from Jack the King Kirby. And there he is, Galactus. But don't worry, he'll be turned purple in the next issue. There we go. It's his powers. Yeah, Reed lets you know he's in an act of desperation. That's why he never really grows a beard. We saw the beard return, when was it? In Dan Slott's run, I think. But it kind of shows you that he is out of ideas. And one of the things he does, he's like, look, we're about to face our doom. Earth is going to be eaten. There's nothing I can do. I might as well shave and at least look good going out with a bang. So yes, this is the Devourer of Worlds, and he's come to Earth for the first time. And his herald has warned everybody that there's no way of stopping him. There's a connection between him and Alicia that will later come back in the Silver Surfer series by Stan Lee and Big John Buscema. How is it that they're able to stop him? What part, or what role rather, does the Watcher have to play in all of this? To me, these issues still, they are so good. I love these issues. 3 of the most important issues. Because, I mean, it's a very common thing these days for a story to continue into the next issue. And a story to keep continuing for 6 parts, 7 parts, 12 parts, an event. But back then, in the Silver Age, we really didn't have, they were standalone issues. It wasn't up until this point that things were changing. Like, you had to read the next issue. You had to read the previous issue to see why the Fantastic Four were in danger. Very, very important for the history of comics. Then we have the return of Galactus. But this time around, he's showing that he has vulnerability, that there's something wrong with him, that he is dying, and he needs the help of the Fantastic Four. And things are forever changed. This is also during the John Byrne era. We had established who this character, Frankie Ray, was, who's this girlfriend of the Human Torch, and she actually has ties back to the original Human Torch. She, at this point, had already revealed that she had powers, Because, yeah. Well, hell, by the time we get to Earth X, everyone's got powers. But anyway, Galactus comes back. And Frankie has the very, very similar powers like the Human Torch. Terrax is down here on Earth, and what's happening is that Galactus is dying, and he hungers. And there is a trade-off at the end. And I really like that they chose these 3 issues, because it is a different, even though it's the same story, it's a different take on that classic story of this Devourer of Worlds coming here, but this time around for a different reason. Yet at the end of the day, it's still the same thing. Oh, I'm going to eat your planet. All right, and then let's see if they have anything. I don't think they do. Nope, nothing in the back. Okay, just kind of a lead into the next story arc, The Childhood End. So this book has 136 pages, perfect for anybody that wants to read some of the classic stuff, the fights between the Fantastic Four and Galactus. $17.99. Human Torch Burn. So this is collecting the Human Torch stories, issues number 1 through 6 from the 2003 series. And this brings back a lot of memories. This has been collected before in 2 trade paperbacks. I think the series only went for about 12 issues. And then there was also a complete collection. Carl Kessel, Scotty Young, Joe Seung, and Pierre-Andre Derry, Studio F, coloring the book. This brings back memories because this was the first time I remember seeing Scotty Young's artwork inside of a book. He had done like a Spider-Man story, but this was the first time I remember thinking, wow, this guy's pretty solid. He kind of reminds me of Humberto Ramos mixed with like Jeffrey Scott Campbell, and has that anime flair I really like. And my buddy Trevor was obsessed with his artwork. He loved his artwork. So here we have a flashback. So this is a 6-issue kind of a mystery type of series. It's sort of a retro story, but it fits into modern continuity too. So we go back to Johnny Storm when he was already the Human Torch and he was part of the Fantastic Four. He already had powers. However, he was still in high school. And here, he's flirting with some girls, and this is basically the type of relationship that he had with his fellow students, with the faculty at school, when he thought of himself as a superhero and less of like a normal high school student. But the biggest confrontation he has is with this kid right here. He is an Olympic-bound wrestler named Mike Snow. Now, Mike Snow has a little bit of an accident that causes him to have a scar. So that the first issue kind of builds up what's happening. Mike is really jealous of Johnny dating this one girl, and he's like, well, who are you to tell me who I can date and who I cannot date? Then we see Johnny Storm in present day as we have a new character that is appearing through here, and this is Sheila Donner. I actually like Sheila. She's a really unique character, and I want to say she's Australian just because she keeps saying mate all the time. I'm pretty sure she is, because later on I think she ends up wearing like an Australian logo on her t-shirt. Anyway, she's a reporter, and that's how they meet. She is a journalist reporter that's reporting for the public eye as Johnny is doing some experimental tests. And then it all comes full circle here when Mike Snow shows up at the Fantastic Four Tower. And he's asking for help. He's a firefighter now. And again, he has scars. Something happened in the past. You can find out in issue number 1. There's accidents that are happening in his firehouse. A lot of his friends, a lot of his co-workers are catching on fire for absolutely no reason. And there's a mysterious person that could be involved. And she doesn't really go by any name or anything, not like Firefly or Firebug or anything like that. She is probably the one responsible for everything. She does don a supervillain type of costume right here. But anyway, it all connects back to the past and, brings it back here to present day. Now, for sticklers of continuity, whenever you're showing artwork like this and we're talking about the past, like, wait a second, how in the world can that be the past? The past was 1961 and 62 when he was still in high school. Yeah, again, it's a retro throwback type of story. And then in the very back, absolutely nothing, just the ad for the Fantastic Four versus Galactus. But this book collects the first 6 issues of this mini-series, maxi-series, I guess. 136 pages, $17.99. Kid Venom. Origins. So this is a character that appeared in the pages of the Death of Venomverse, and this is an origin story. And if you're a fan of the Demon Days and Demon Wars and Peach Momoko's Ultimate X-Men, or you just like manga and are trying to get into comics, oh my gosh, this is perfect for you. Because of the way the story is told, the way it is drawn. This is all done by Taigami. And then Guru FX is the color artist, and Clayton Cowles is the letterer. There are some other guest artists and color artists, but those are the main ones working on the book. This takes place in Japan. And the year is 977, the outskirts of the capital. So collected in here is Kid Venom Origins #1 and Kid Venom 1 through 4. The book has 120 pages and retails for $17.99. So we do meet the character for the first time of Kintaro, who is a normal kid, but things change, of course, when he became bonded to the symbiote, this Kid Venom. So Sakata Kintoki, I believe. I can remember Kentucky because of Kentucky. Anyway, so he has the symbiote costume, and it's become a part of his body, and he's fighting this other symbiote right here. And again, the style is very reminiscent of a manga. Now, this symbiote that he's fighting seems to have been possessing a bear. And he keeps calling it yokai, and actually all the villagers keep calling it the yokai. And it's true. It did possess a bear that had a little bit of a family. So then we kick off the next series and who's behind everything, who the antagonists are going to be through this series. And again, man, just looking at this artwork, it really does feel like this was a manga at one time. And hell, I mean, it might have been. So let me know in the comments down below if this was a... Well, no, this is done in the left to right format. It couldn't have been. Anyway, so as it turns out, you do have supporting characters here, like a supporting cast. You have Usui and Clinter. Clinter is the actual symbiote. So that's why he's known as Kid Venom. And then your villains are this thing called the Symbiote Hive. You have the character of Shuten Doji. You have Gedomaru. You have a bunch of the other Onis. And then Tsuchigumo. Those are your main villains. And they all have powers. Now, of course, they're known as yokai. They're known as like... what are they called? What do they call them? The Colossal Warriors. Because they're big giants. So it is pretty much the story of Venom just set in the past in this Japan area or era of 966. You might see some familiar looking symbiotes if you're a big stickler for the symbiote history and those characters that have appeared through the pages of Venom and Carnage. No matter what incarnation of Venom, they seem to just appear through here. But I promise, by the end of the 4th issue, it does connect to that Death of the Venomverse. But this kind of gives you an idea of the way that it's written. So if you like manga, if you like I mentioned, the Peach Momoko Demon Days and Demon Wars and Ultimate X-Men, you might want to check this out. This might open your eyes to the world of Venom. All right, let's look in the back here. So in the back, we do have some sketches. And the variant covers are not only collected back here in a thumbnail size. Oh, I like that Philip Tan homage cover. Also that one, the Mike Deodato Jr. Philip Tan doing a cover. Oh, okay, they're all homage covers. But they're also in between issues. Again, the book has a total of 120 pages and retails for $17.99. Venom War. Believe it or not, Kid Venom had absolutely nothing to do with Venom War. Venom War is its own thing. Venom War is something that I haven't read up until, well, last week by the time I was recording. This video comes out on Tuesday. I recorded it on Thursday and I read it on Wednesday. Yes, on Wednesday of last week, if you're watching this, on Tuesday. So I had read just about all the other tie-ins and I was like, man, why haven't I not read Venom War? Oh, because it was supposed to come out in first week of May. However, I didn't update my upcoming collected editions and saw that they moved it up to April 1st, so I completely missed it. Spoilers, by the way, for what is happening here in the pages of Venom War. And a little bit of what happened in Al Ewing's Venom, the first series, not all new Venom. All right, what's happening here? I completely 100% am going to suggest you go and read Venom by Al Ewing at the very least, because this is kind of the bookend to his run there on Venom before All New Venom. I know he's working on All New Venom before that starts, because it's about these characters that have, he's been building up. Even a little, you don't need to 100% read Carnage, although it's a really fun series, but at least Venom by Al Ewing. All right, so here are our key players. You have Team Eddie Brock, Bedlam, and if you're asking why they're separated, go to read Venom. Tyro, Wild. Then you have Team Dylan Brock, Toxin, Bren Waters, Red Goblin, Normie Osborn, Flexo, and Sleeper. That is Team Dylan, Team Eddie. I swear this book reads like a wrestling match, and you'll see why here in a little bit. And Undeclared, Spider-Man Peter Parker, the Venom symbiote. What? Why isn't Venom with Eddie or Dylan? Oh, man. Al Ewing, Iban Coelho, Frank Darmata, and Ariana Mayer working on this book. And the stupid Venom horse. Yes. I'll show you just one page of Venom Horse. This collects Venom War 1 through 5, 144 pages, $17.99. Love this. I'm so glad Iban Coelho is blowing up. That guy deserves it. He's such a freaking amazing artist. All right. Venom War. What exactly is happening? Remember when I said it's like a big wrestling match? Well, that's the way it starts off. And you might be familiar with some of these characters here that are being the commentators or wrestling, but it doesn't matter. What ends up happening is that Eddie Brock and his team Eddie are coming to wrestle here on our timeline. So he is now back in our time. So really quickly, in the Venom series, you had two stories going on. You had a time-displaced Venom who ended up at the Garden of Time and ended up meeting this one character named Meridius. And you have Dylan. So Dylan is still in the past, in our present day, and he is the current host of Venom. Then you have Eddie, that is lost again in time, and he is the King in Black. So it happened after the Donny Cates run, when he becomes the King in Black, and he gets to meet other Eddie Brocks in this Garden of Time, if you will. But one of the main ones that plays a huge part in this is this gentleman known as Meridius, the symbiote known as Meridius. So after seeing the Lumberjack and Gator and Caveman here, by the way, Crusher Hogan and Doc Sawbones are the commentators. They jump in because they are displaced through time. What happened was Venom, long story short, the symbiote Venom decides to leave both Dylan and Eddie Brock because he feels like he is just causing them harm. So what does he do? He goes back to the one person that he bonded with at the very beginning, and that is Peter Parker. And I had read that series, and it actually makes sense if you read the first issue here to go and then read that 3-issue miniseries. So I'm glad I kind of read that first, because this explains why it bonded to him, why there is a prophecy that perhaps he should have been the King in Black instead of Eddie. And that's what Meridius is trying to do. He's trying to destroy Eddie from having him become the King in Black, because he knows what's going to happen. So the Venom symbiote has separated from son Dylan and father Eddie because it wants to protect him. He thinks that he's going to cause him harm. So he's trying to get Peter Parker to help them out. I swear this is confusing. I know it sounds confusing, and it is confusing. But it does help to read Venom. That's why I suggested it. I'm only going to talk about just the first issue and a little bit of what happens in the next couple of issues. But in the meantime, Dylan is being visited by an older gentleman. We don't quite know who he is, and he's giving him like 5 questions to ask. So he's got his own team of Toxin and his own team of the Red Goblin and Plexo, and then of course Sleeper. And that's how the symbiotes are going to fight each other. Now, the other thing is that Alchemax has created a formula with the help of someone named Mr. Meridius. Yeah, that guy did not come up with a good name if he's trying to hide who he is. And this formula is a virus that you can spread, and it's a zombiote virus. So it's a symbiote, but it's kind of dead like a zombie, and that's what this is about. There's a bunch of zombiotes now breaking out in the city and all over the world. And Venom Horse makes his first appearance here. I think. I'm not sure if he did or not. I don't think I remember him in the pages of Venom by Al Ewing, but he's a ridiculous character. And each of the chapter ends with somebody ridiculously saying something along the lines of, "Have mercy, Venom Horse." Or please don't do this, Venom. You get the idea. So that's what this is. You have the entire city fighting against those zombiettes. Then you have this two different teams that are fighting for different reasons. They're trying to get the Venom symbiote back on their side. Dylan wants it, and so does Eddie. But what kind of role is Peter Parker going to play if he has the Venom symbiote? Whose side is he going to choose? Or will he fulfill the prophecy of being the King in Black? Even my buddy, Willie Lumpkin, gets infected by the zombiettes. However, somebody comes to the rescue. And that somebody is none other than Agent Venom. That's right, Flash Thompson comes in as the anti-Venom, and that's what he's helping to spread out. Carnage makes an appearance and tries to make a playthrough here. This was a lot of fun, I'm not going to lie. I actually had a lot of fun. Confusing as it is, it's a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to see. By the end of this, we'll have a new status quo for Venom, even though it's a mystery as to who the new Venom is. Please don't put who it is in the spoilers, because spoilers suck, and I want people to be surprised, even though it's all over the effing internet. And by effing, I don't mean freaking. Man, people can't wait to gripe about things, I swear. And here are the variant covers all the way in the back, including a creepy Peach Momoko one there. 144 pages, $17.99. And that is, hey, even Venom Horse gets a Clayton Crane cover. Venom War. And now we have reached that part of the video where we look at all of the spines that are coming out from these books this week. And that little Kid Venom Origins, that Marvel logo is, I don't think it comes down low enough. It looks like perhaps it was at one time supposed to be a digest size book. Anyway, that is just my random thoughts. But that's the first thing that came to mind. Maybe at one time they were going to make it a digest size book like the It's Jeff. All right, let's continue with the overviews. Oh, did I mention to hit that like button? I'm pretty sure I did. Just in case I didn't, please don't forget to hit that like button. Okay, now let's continue with the overviews. Earth X. Now this is the new printing. I believe this is its 4th printing. I used to have the original one and it fell apart. And then I got the 2 Omnis. This is all written by Jim Krueger with Alex Ross as the plot kind of device of what helped kickstart this book. John Paul Leon doing the pencils, rest in peace, what a phenomenal artist he was. Bill Reinhold doing the inks, Todd Klein doing the lettering, and then colors by Matt Hollingsworth, Melissa Edwards, and James Sinclair. Collected in here is Earth X 0 through 12, and then Earth XX, 472 pages, $44.99. Here is a brief introduction by Ralph Macchio, not the Karate Kid, talking about how underrated, how great of a book this was, and how weird of an origin it got, because it all began in the pages of Wizard magazine in 1997. But it's a really interesting history of how this all got started. So we kick it off with chapter 0. And how it got started, like I mentioned, is the Wizard magazine. But I'll get back to that here in a little bit. So we meet this character, Aaron Stack. Now, if you've been reading Marvel Comics for a while, you realize that, oh, that's a Machine Man, of course. Or X-51. And he is greeted by the Monolith. Now, of course, you know there's a connection there. If you've been reading Marvel Comics for a while, you know Machine Man first appeared in the 2001 comic by Jack the King Kirby. And the Monolith, 2001, Space Odyssey. Yeah, you get it. Is it the Monolith from there? I don't know. I mean, surely it was done on purpose. But he gets a calling from this Monolith. And he keeps talking to it. And you don't really hear a reply. He steps through it. And his human skin gets ripped away. And what happens here is the revelation that who's been calling him has been calling him from the moon. And who's been calling him is none other than Uatu, the Watcher. The Watcher is now blind. And he needs help being the Watcher again. And he wants X-51. I love the fact that he just calls him X-51. He doesn't call him Aaron Stack. Look, just call me Aaron. He's like, nope. X-51. And he gives him the origin of the Marvel Universe through here. And someone has gouged his eyes out, And he needs eyes to see what is coming because something evil is coming. Now, when he's telling the origin of the Marvel Universe, he gets to talk about the Celestials, the Deviants, the Eternals, the Asgardians, the Skrulls, the Inhumans. All of that is actually playing a huge, huge part in this story. And this is pretty much laying the foundation of what will happen next. So by the end of this issue number 0, Aaron Stack will become the eyes of the Watcher. If that sounds familiar to you, because of Original Sin, they did it here first. Actually, they did a lot of things here first. This book doesn't get enough recognition. Yes, and I mean the whole history of the Marvel Universe, with some retcon things happening, because you need those retcon things happening in order for the story to connect to where it's going. And remember when I said that this was all Wizard Magazine? So what happened is, right after the success of Kingdom Come by Alex Ross and Mark Waid, Wizard started petitioning Alex Ross to draw and paint, actually I think they were just pencils, what Marvel characters would look like given that Kingdom Come type of treatment. Can you show us what the future of the Marvel Universe would look like? So he started drawing characters like this without a story really attached to it, right? And fans kept writing in letters. I think there was even a book that was published, The Art of Earth X by Alex Ross, that was published by both Marvel and Wizard Magazine. And it sold like crazy. So Marvel said, hey, you know what? Let's actually make it into a book. So they got Jim Krueger, who is a wonderful writer, a very underrated writer. I love this, and I love what he did with Justice over at DC. And he is the creator of Combo Man. If you grew up in the 90s and you remember those combo ads, that's right. Got to interview him last year, and he told me that story. All right, so what's the basic premise of this? What's going on? What does it have to do with that beginning? Well, this is all set in the future, where there was a big war that happened, and without going too much into spoilers, an Inhuman bomb is released. Now, this Inhuman bomb is the cause of every human being on the planet having superhero powers. So, superheroes are not special anymore. And some of them have retired, some of them have died, and now we have human beings that have superpowers. Are they Inhumans? Are they something else? And you can find out by reading the book and why it was done. But it's also important to note that through these pages, oh, by the way, there are indexes in the end of each of the chapters. Every one of them has not an index, an appendix. It's also important to note that Reed Richards blames himself for humanity all having superpowers. Because you would think it's all glorious and fun, but no, there's a lot of horrific thing happening to people. Now, Reed is a tortured soul through here in this future. You see Uncle Ben and Alicia Masters, they have kids, and if you're thinking, how could she possibly have kids? Everyone has a superpower. And if Alicia could build just beautiful things out of clay, why not build beautiful kids with Ben Grimm, right? So, Reed feels responsible for two things, and I promise this is the last big spoiler I'm going to talk about. Well, besides the cover, because I'm sure most people are here wondering, what is that? He feels responsible for the death of Sue and the death of Johnny. Now, something wicked happens here. Like, Franklin Richards, what he does to Doctor Doom Namor for killing Johnny, oh man, that is dark. I love it. There's another character here that I'm surprised they haven't gone back to. So much potential with it. And then what ends up happening is Doctor Doom and Sue end up pretty much blowing up together and dying. So Reed has just gone into hiding. He is now in Latveria wearing a Doctor Doom costume because the Doombots, I guess they're stupid enough not to be able to tell that that's not Doctor Doom, and that's why he's going into hiding there. And Iron Man, also another old guy, is the only human being kind of left. He's one of the few human beings. He refuses to get superpowers. He was inside the suit, and that kept him away from the Terrigen bomb, and he didn't get superpowers. So, what is happening through here is there's a wedding. The Inhumans are coming to Earth, and they're hoping to unite all these people. Captain America is fighting against this new Red Skull. And this is the character I was talking about. There's a character here that goes by the name the Red Skull. And this isn't the original Schmidt. This is another character that, to me, is a creepy character for some reason they haven't used. This is the character of Benny Beckley. And Benny is a kid. I think he's like 14 years old. He is the son of Dr. Richard Beckley, and if you love Marvel Comics, you're already making connections as to who that is. I'll give you a hint. It's a comic. There you go. Anyway, he is a psychic, like a powerful psychic. And he's such a strong telepath that when his powers awaken because of the Terrigen bomb, Beckley's powers killed all the other psychics, all the other telepaths across the world, and he has become the only one. And what he's doing is manipulating people and having people fight each other and doing it in really creepy ways. Peter Parker is now a middle-aged man. His daughter, Mayday Parker, now possesses the Venom costume. So you're going to see a lot of changes through here that started off as a piece of art. T'Challa's there with Aurora, and if all this sounds familiar, like stories that you've read before, it happened here first. This story is so underrated. Yeah, this is Beckley. I'm surprised no one has used that character. Like, that's such a Hickman thing to do. Hickman has borrowed elements from this Earth. What is this? Earth 99? I think it's, 9997. It's kind of like the year that it started, 1997. So this isn't Earth 616, but set in a possible future of this Earth. What happened to Wolverine and Jean Grey and Cyclops? There are X-Men here. So what does all of this have to do with this cover? Because I'm pretty sure most of you are here wondering, wait, Shala Ball is going to be in the new Fantastic Four. I've heard about Earth X. How does she you haven't even talked about her. I haven't, you're right. Because she doesn't technically appear until the 12th issue, the penultimate issue. So something big is coming. Something huge is coming towards Earth. And Galactus is also coming. Now, Galactus during this time has been turned into a star by Reed Richards after a huge fight. But Galactus is forever. He has to exist. And there's a reason why he has to exist. So not only is Captain America and the rest of the heroes fighting against this kid named the Red Skull, but now we have Galactus coming back to fight off against something awful. So that happens all in issue number 12, when it kind of leads into this big thing. And I have to show these pictures, so I'm sorry for spoilers for what happens in this issue and who's coming down here. I'm not going to reveal why, but it is all explained that the Celestials are coming to Earth, and there is a reason why they're coming here. And this is what the Watcher feared. Although, was it really fear that drove him, or was it something else? And this is the new Thor, changed by Odin, because of all people, Loki. Anyway, this is where we meet Shala Bal, who is also one of the Silver Surfers. And she's coming here with Norrin Radd. So together, they're both heralds of Galactus. This particular Galactus that comes back here to face off, perhaps against the Celestials. So she only appears in the last 2 issues here. And that's it. That's who she is. Now, in this version, everything like the destruction of surfers, like planet and all that is still part of this world. She's still the lover of Norrin Radd. And here, let's go back so we don't show anything towards the end. She's still the lover of Norrin Radd, the Silver Surfer. And now both of them have become heralds of this Galactus. And they're, never mind. I don't want to spoil why both of them are needed. But anyway, that's kind of gives you an idea of what Earth X is. It's available in Omni, but those are out of print. And now this is back into print. This book has 472 pages, and again, $44.99. Last but certainly not least, Amazing Spider-Man Modern Era Epic Collection, Volume 1, the one we thought they would kick it off with, and sure enough they did, from 2001 to 2002, coming home. Before I even open this gets my seal of approval. And I will be talking about some spoilers for it. Nothing too big, but the setup of what makes this series great, at least to me, and why it does feel like coming home. I swear, I think I picked such a great time to come back to comics back in 2002. Because by that point, we were getting Morrison on New X-Men. We were getting this book. I was coming back to series that I had missed, and they were starting to come out with these trade paperbacks. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. No pun intended. J. Michael Straczynski, John Romita Jr., Scott Hanna, Dan Kemp, Avalon Studios, Wes Abbott, and Jimmy Betancourt. And this collects issues 30 to 45 of the 1998 Amazing Spider-Man series. All right. So previously, and they don't give you a previously, by the way. That will be in the final volume of the classic Epic Collections. Peter Parker and MJ have gotten into a fight. Like, something bad has happened that's kind of separated both of them. And he is now looking for a job. He's still Spider-Man. And the whole Parker luck has kind of come and hit him hard. He's taken out his aggression on a building that's supposed to be demolished. And he walks by his old school. And at his old school, he has memories, of the good times he had and then some of the bad times that he had. But he notices that this kid is being picked on, and he talks to one of the teachers there, and then he walks away and talks about, starts thinking a lot of narration about how time has changed and so much has changed. Then he meets this guy right here named Ezekiel. He's not wearing shoes. He's attached to... And please do not compare this guy to the Madam Web character, because that movie completely effed things up. I swear. Peter Parker meets this guy named Ezekiel. He's got his shoes in his jacket pocket there, and he's clinging onto a wall, and he calls him Peter. And he knows knows all these things about Peter Parker, and he's like, wait, how could you know all this? And he's like, look, here's the thing. There's something coming for you. And I'll keep in touch. So that's what he does. Ezekiel approaches him, and he's like, who the heck was that guy? And then we get a little bit of what perhaps is to come. And we see this guy walking down the stairs, and he's like, Morlun, it's all set. And he's like, good, excellent. And now Morlun, it seems like, is feeding on this German superhero, and he's hungry for more. So that's kind of sets up what's coming. Oh, man, and this is when it gets good. So Peter has a conversation with Aunt May. Aunt May, like, subconsciously putting ideas in his head about, hey, those kids need teachers. Maybe you should become a teacher. Love that. We see what Ezekiel does during the daytime, still wondering about Spider-Man and what to tell him exactly. And we see a normal conversation between Morlun and this guy named Dex. Morlun having these red eyes. He triggers the spider sense, that warning system in Spider-Man, so huge. It's never happened like that. Of course, that probably happens with every new villain, right? Every new baddie that's introduced, it's like, oh, yeah, it's never gone off like that. So Peter stops. Oh, man, this is messed up. But he stops the school shooting from happening. And then he decides, I am going to be a teacher. I'm here to teach science. And that's what he does. And he gets a little close to some of these students, including this young girl named Jennifer, who he finds out is homeless. And that ties into another storyline that will come to play later. Meanwhile, he's getting to know Ezekiel a little bit, and Ezekiel is warning him about what is to come. He's telling him what a spider totem is. How perhaps the radioactive spider really wasn't radioactive. Like, it didn't give him powers. That perhaps the powers were in him all along. And the spider just kind of kicked it on, like, for him. And it triggered this activation, if you will. And it was supposed to be that way because he's one of the spider folks. And finally, he has to face down against Morlun. And Morlun is this creature that is eating these spider people throughout time and has existed throughout time. And he does get the beating of a lifetime, not as close as he did to the other, but it is like, it's a huge beating. This guy doesn't stop. Like, once he thinks, I lost him. Like, he wasn't able to take him down. He lost him, and he's there. He's there, and he's there to kick the crap out of him some more. So how does he beat him? And Ezekiel refuses to help him because he's like, look, you're on your own. So Peter Parker, being the scientist that he is, figures out a way to defeat Morlun. And he does it in a Peter Parker way, and that's why I love the character so much. After the defeat of Morlun, of course, temporary, Dex decides to leave. He's like, yeah, I'm out of here. We are interrupted with this story right here of 9/11. 9/11 happened, and Marvel and JMS decided to react to it by showcasing how the superheroes... If you've never read this is truly heartbreaking if you lived it, if you were there, if you were watching the news, if you lost family, friends. Like, it's tough. To this day, this issue still hits. There's a couple really powerful panels here. And that's something I haven't really talked about, is the art. Because, man, JMS just is killing it with the writing, but John Romita Jr. with Scott Hanna, I think it is Scott Hanna for the most part. Yeah, I think all of it is Scott Hanna. Just, I don't think it got better than this for me. I think the other thing for John Romita Jr. to have drawn, I know not everybody's a fan, and there are fans, and they all disagree on what the best John Romita Jr. era was. It was the Roger Stern Spider-Man, and we all compare it to the Spidey era, right? Like, or no, it was the era from the 90s, or it was this era, or is the era now. This is my favorite era. I think Scott Hanna and John Romita Jr. worked so well together. I love the inks on this, and it's, you know, he slimmed down the way that the characters look. There is the Nuff Said issue right here, which focuses on Mary Jane and what's happening to her. Where did she go after her and Peter Parker kind of broke it off? And what can be done? Can anything be done to salvage that marriage? Now, we are introduced to this character right here called the Shade that is taking advantage of the homeless, and that's when Peter Parker decides to help one of his students, Jennifer, out. He visits Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange kind of gives him a warning about not doing something, and of course, Peter's not going to listen, but it all ties to this Shade character. We have a new Dr. Octopus, same as the old, but the old Otto Octavius does not, he will not lay down and let someone else become Dr. Octopus. Issues 30 to 45 are collected in here. 392 pages. Let's look at the back here for some extras. We have some character designs by J. Scott Campbell, who did the majority of the covers. And then the Nuff Said issue right here, the script. The back, 392 pages, $44.99. This is definitely my pick of the week. If you haven't read this, oh my gosh, you're in for a treat. I know it's available in Omnis. I know it's available in oversized hardcovers. Actually, I think as of now, the Omnis are out of print, so it's the oversized hardcovers. And I ain't here to say and lie like, oh man, this is good throughout the whole thing. Like, Sins Past and One More Day are the best things ever. No. I am talking about Coming Home because that's what it felt like to me, that I had been gone out of comics for so long that the stories in here, the artwork, the nostalgia that is with this, like, it really did feel like coming home, much like the way I feel about Astonishing X-Men. It's not like Peter Parker and Spider-Man are my favorite characters, but they were a big part of my youth, and who I am today are because of these. Okay, who I am today is because of my mother and father, but also because of these heroes I grew up reading about. Hope and never giving up, and always not to forget to rely on those that you love and love you. This is a beautiful Nuff Said issue. I love the loophole around it when Aunt May has had enough of the Daily Bugle and starts going off on the Daily Bugle. I think it's beautiful and wonderful, and shows you that wonderful relationship between Aunt May and Peter Parker. But that's it. Whew. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these collections. In the comments down below, let me know which ones you are picking up, which ones you are collecting, which ones you're glad are back in print, or which ones you've never read before and you're going in completely blind. If you have any questions, leave those down below. Smash that like button on the way out. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.